I'm Brian Appell, and thank you for joining us as we discuss the importance of lutein and the growing opportunities in the eye health market. Out of the 600 carotenoids found in nature, only 3 reside in the macula of the eye: lutein, RR-zeaxanthin, and RS-meso, collectively known as the macular carotenoids. They play a critical role in visual health, and we're asking the question, are they so important that they should be considered essential? This webinar takes a fresh look at macular carotenoids to evaluate their importance across age groups, from early development to adulthood, and to explore market opportunities as consumers become increasingly aware of the importance of early and consistent intake of these nutrients for a lifetime of healthy vision. Our speakers today are Lynda Doyle, Senior Vice President of Innovation at OmniActive Health Technologies, who will kick off our discussion on the science and benefits of the macular carotenoids, while Irene Kersbergen, Market Analyst at Innova Market Insight, will provide an overview of the eye health market, where it is now, and how it's evolving. So let's start with you, Lynda. We know there's a lot of research on lutein, more than 20 years worth of research, showing that it's specifically deposited in several areas of the body, including the eyes, the brain, and the skin. But today we're going to focus on what it's well known for, and that's vision. And even with that, it's hard to ignore the amount of research showing that supplementation can help both people with impaired vision and even healthy eyes. So let's start with a basic question. Why should we even be concerned with eye health?
Well, Brian, I'm sure if I asked you the question, which of the 5 senses are most important to you, you'd probably answer by stating eyesight.
That's right. I think most people would.
You're correct. And that is the case with most people. And it's because vision is the primary way we navigate our environments. Losing our sight significantly impacts the ability to remain independent. In fact, when asked, blindness is what many people fear the most, more than losing their memory, even a limb, or having a heart attack.
Okay. All right, so taking care of your vision goes beyond just having the right prescription glasses. And there are things we can do nutritionally to support eyesight. And I know we're taking some liberties here with the title of the webinar, but really, given the amount of research on lutein and the macular carotenoids and the importance of vision, as you just stated with most people, should lutein be upgraded to vitamin status?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say lutein should be a vitamin. That's because vitamins have a very specific definition, which includes their essentiality to meet daily nutritional requirements as well as to maintain healthy life. People are aware of vitamin A deficiency causing blindness in developing countries, and we have organizations like Vitamin Angels providing this critical nutrient to children. On the other hand, lutein plays a crucial role in visual health, making up the macular pigment, filtering high-energy light, and preventing ocular damage. Its depletion and repletion may have an effect on vision. There is indeed over 20 years of science in multiple populations around the world showing lutein increases macular pigment. Initially, the studies were done in populations with impaired vision, and more recently, the studies have been using individuals with even healthy vision. And although its essentiality still needs to be determined in humans, lutein may deserve an RDA in the future.
So that's interesting you say that, the RDA, because I guess it ties back to this, perhaps this depletion and repletion story that you kind of mentioned here. But, I mean, can you expand a little bit on that? Why?
Sure. If we take a look at this, we really want to talk about the essentiality. And lutein and zeaxanthin isomers belong to a group of compounds that are essential to certain tissues and organs of the body for proper functioning or protection. And under certain conditions, higher intake from either the diet or supplementation may be needed. And these nutrients are known as conditionally essential nutrients. And the criteria to be considered conditionally essential include a number of factors. For example, such nutrients that are not being made by the body, and that means that they must come from either the diet or from supplementation, or nutrients whose inadequate dietary intake correlates to low levels in the body. And these chronically low levels will result in chemical, structural, and or functional changes that over time present clinically. And the final piece here, the final factor, is that if we increase our intake or show higher intakes or supplementation of these nutrients, we'll actually correct the levels and potentially prevent the onset of or slow the progression of specific health conditions. And the macular carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin, certainly fall into this category for these very reasons.
So what you're saying is, I mean, not necessarily that it'll be a vitamin, but it's these nutrients are so important as a conditionally essential nutrient that they could deserve an RDA.
Absolutely. I think if we take a look from a lifelong perspective, these nutrients are critical for certain organs in the body, and lutein and zeaxanthin certainly for things like eye health. So first, if we take a look, the macular carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin, must come from our diet. And consuming higher amounts of them through diet and or supplementation increases macular pigment optical density, or MPOD, or macular pigment. And that's the thickness of this coating that protects the macula. Multiple studies have shown dietary intake is inversely related to the risk of age-related macular degeneration, also known as AMD. As a matter of fact, only humans and non-human primates, like the macaque monkey, have a macula with a central fovea where lutein and zeaxanthin actually concentrate at significantly higher levels than in other tissues in the body. Being conditionally essential also means that under certain conditions, there may be a greater turnover that requires a higher intake of lutein and zeaxanthin, typically through supplementation, to replenish what's used up on a daily basis. For example, we may not be getting enough in our diets, or typically with our lifestyles being exposed to high-energy blue light. As we said before, we can't synthesize lutein, and it must come from the diet. But most adults don't consume enough fruits and vegetables that are rich in lutein. They fall way short of the minimum amount of lutein they should be getting from their diets and only ingest the equivalent of about 1.7 milligrams per day. And even if a person were to consume the recommended 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day, the resulting or corresponding 6 milligrams of lutein still may not be enough to protect the eyes given today's lifestyle and the exposure to high-energy blue light. Our research and the research from others suggests that we need a minimum of 10 to 20 milligrams lutein per day for healthy visual function and healthy visual protection. Now, one of the primary roles of lutein and zeaxanthin isomers is to filter high-energy blue light and protect against the photooxidative effects that occur when this damaging light reaches the macula. Without macular carotenoids, it's analogous to the effect of concentrating light through a magnifying glass onto a piece of paper like we used to do as kids, and this is kind of like burning spots into the eyes. Blue light makes up a component of visible light by which our eyes are constantly bombarded, from the time we wake up in the morning to when we close our eyes to sleep at night. Most people still don't know that the biggest source of blue light exposure comes from the sun. In fact, research estimated that exposure to sunlight can increase the risk of age-related macular degeneration by about 38%.
Okay, so let me just make sure we got that in perspective. You're saying there's a 38% increase in risk just from sunlight, just exposure to sunlight.
Absolutely. So the risk of AMD is 38% greater with sunlight alone. But sunlight is the major source of high-energy blue light. Digital devices, which have become an integral part of our lifestyle today, are also a source of high-energy blue light, as well as the energy-efficient lighting that surrounds us as we protect our environment. Here's a snapshot of digital device use across different age groups. And as you see, it's not just an issue with adults, as teens are spending nearly as much time as adults with digital devices. Even children, whose eyes are more susceptible to blue light, are spending almost 6 hours in front of these devices. So as you see, we've extended our exposure to higher levels of blue light because of an almost constant interaction with our computers at work or at school, smartphones, LED televisions, and even energy-efficient lighting, all of which are characterized by higher levels of blue light emittance. And here's why this is such a concern. Unlike UV light, which is filtered by the lens in the cornea, blue light is not absorbed by these outer layers of the eye, but instead reaches far into the eye and is focused primarily in the macula. This may increase the risk of age-related eye conditions such as AMD, cataract, and glaucoma, as well as dry eye syndrome, which can affect people of all ages. OmniActive's recent in vivo mechanism of action study showed that if left unprotected, blue light can trigger a series of events and upregulate genes that promote both oxidative stress and endoplasmic reticulum stress. This ultimately leads to a decrease in retinal pigment epithelial cells, or known as RPE cells, and their eventual death. The result is impaired visual function and eventually permanent vision loss.
So that's interesting, Lynda. It's interesting to kind of think about blue light in the context of the sun, right? Because, most people, what do they do when they go out in sunlight? They kind of protect their eyes and their skin against UV light.
Absolutely.
And I don't think a lot of people are really aware of the effects of blue light from these sources. I know a lot of people kind of correlate it with digital devices, but not so much sun yet. So it's an interesting idea that you're putting here. But I just want to unpackage this a little bit more so we kind of understand where we are with this. So just to summarize what you're saying, essentially we can't synthesize lutein. We aren't getting enough in the diet, and prolonged exposure to blue light from the sun and from digital devices means that it's important that we consume higher levels of these macular carotenoids to essentially replace what we're losing every day.
Absolutely, Brian. As a matter of fact, we should be starting early in life, and we should be consuming higher levels of macular carotenoids from childhood all the way through our aging process. What's really important to understand is that age-related vision loss is a cumulative process. Now, let me stress that point a little differently because it's so critical to understanding the importance of lutein and the macular carotenoids. Age-related macular degeneration, the most common cause of blindness in older individuals globally, is basically the accumulation of the harmful effects of high-energy blue light that starts early in life. Diet alone may not provide optimal levels of macular carotenoids to protect against its detrimental effects. We saw that earlier. And supplementation with lutein and zeaxanthin isomers can effectively replenish and increase MPOD levels to protect the eyes. In fact, depending on the intensity of blue light, macular carotenoids can absorb up to 90% of blue light that enters the eyes.
So you're saying 90%?
Absolutely, 90%, 90% of the that's what macular carotenoids can absorb. So they play a critical role in the health and wellness of our eyes. And that's why OmniActive has been focused on research around macular carotenoids and blue light for the past several years. Several studies have demonstrated that supplementation with all three macular carotenoids, that's lutein, RR-zeaxanthin, and RS-meso zeaxanthin, from Lutemax 2020, can rapidly increase macular pigment levels in as little as 8 weeks. And this increase not only confers greater protection, but also improves visual performance. And this includes contrast sensitivity. And contrast sensitivity basically allows us to discern between objects and also plays a role in depth perception. So, for example, this would be distinguishing between a stop sign and its surroundings, so you know when to stop your car coming to the end of a road, or enjoying the vistas of the Smoky Mountains that I tend to do. Also, by absorbing blue light more effectively, the eyes are less sensitive to glare and allow us to see more clearly under bright light situations, like driving at sunrise or sunset when the sun is in your field of vision. And this is basically improved glare performance. Now, photostress recovery is the ability of the eyes to recover after a sudden burst of light. And that would be something like the flash of a camera while having a picture taken, or the light from oncoming cars at night. Lutemax 2020 was also shown to significantly improve photostress recovery.
Okay, so just so I understand this, Lynda, because you've mentioned these, I guess, markers of visual performance. I mean, why are they important? I mean, I understand what you're saying here, but like, why would we measure these parameters, and what does it tell us about supplementation?
Well, these parameters are critical to indicate how we actually see and how we move around the environment. So when we talk about vision as the most important tool to help navigate our environments, these functions of vision, contrast sensitivity, glare performance, and photostress recovery, this is how we do it. These are the measurements that we need to take. And macular carotenoids not only protect the eyes, but they're also critical for how we actually see.
Okay, all right, so I get it. So basically what you're saying is macular carotenoids aren't just about protecting the eyes and protecting against age-related macular degeneration, but it actually helps with supporting your vision, actually optimizing how you see.
Absolutely. You're absolutely correct. As a matter of fact, that's, again, just to reiterate the importance of having higher levels of macular carotenoids throughout a lifetime, because from early on, it's important to improve our visual function and to maintain a healthy visual function as we age, and then protect against those conditions that may come along with aging, so the age-related eye conditions that we talked about. Now, just to talk a little further about some of the research that supports the macular carotenoids and their use for healthy vision, the BLUE study, also known as the Blue Light User Exposure Study, was a study that actually showed for the first time that supplementing with macular carotenoids, lutein, RR-zeaxanthin, and meso-zeaxanthin from Lutemax 2020 can significantly improve the effects of prolonged exposure to blue light from digital devices. So specifically, in the group supplemented with Lutemax 2020, we saw a significant reduction versus placebo in eye strain, eye fatigue, as well as headaches. These are all attributes of computer vision syndrome. In addition, we also saw in this study an improvement in all the parameters that we talked about earlier, photostress recovery, contrast sensitivity, glare performance. So very interesting study.
Okay, so I think you added one more benefit to Lutemax 2020 here. So it's not only about protecting, it's not only about supporting visual performance, but it's also about kind of mitigating the short-term effects of prolonged digital device use.
You're absolutely correct. Thanks, Brian, for pointing that out. Yes. And then what we did is one additional study. We really wanted to understand, after seeing the benefits in humans, we wanted to understand what were the underlying mechanisms of action of these macular carotenoids. And in a recent publication details the role the macular carotenoids actually play in a blue light animal model. They elucidate the mechanisms by which lutein, RR-zeaxanthin, and RS-meso from Lutemax 2020 can protect retinal cells and preserve visual function. The study demonstrated that these macular carotenoids are more than just potent antioxidants. They also influence genes that play a critical role in preserving visual function. So with that being said, if there was one thing you were going to walk away with from this webinar, it's this. Lutein and zeaxanthin are critical for healthy vision, and it's important to replenish them on a daily basis to slow down the harmful effects of blue light exposure and its clinical outcome, age-related eye conditions such as macular degeneration. And it's really important to note that early and consistent intake is key to both healthy visual function and long-term vision protection. Diet's a good start, but we've seen that we're not quite getting enough of the fruits and vegetables in our diet to get to healthy levels that have been shown in the science. So supplementation certainly ensures that you get optimal amounts for blue light protection, for visual performance, and protection against age-related eye conditions.
Lynda, thanks for that. That was an awesome overview of the need and the essentiality of lutein. And the way we're talking here is we frame it as age-related or a cumulative process over time. And what we've always seen is that eye health has primarily been a 55-plus age category. But from what you're saying, it's apparent that it's important across all age groups. That starting early is really important.
It certainly is.
And that brings me to our next speaker, who will provide some insight on how the eye health market is evolving. How you doing, Irene?
Hi, I'm doing fine. Thank you, Brian.
So I saw that Innova just came out with a new senior nutrition report on healthy aging. So I think this ties in really well to what we're talking about with lutein, its essentiality, and how it's really important for that healthy aging process. Can you take us through this market and address, the question, is eye health still just for seniors, or is it expanding into other demographics?
So yes, Brian. So first of all, I think it's interesting to indicate what health aspects are on the top of the consumer's minds. So we've asked respondents in the U.S. what concerns them most in life. And besides concerns such as weight management, cancer, and blood pressure, as we see on the chart on the left, the health of the eyes is in the top of the concerns too. And this means that eye health continues to be one of the main concerns for consumers. We actually see in our data that 18.6% of our respondents say that eye health is a concern in their life. And if we then, we see that, of course, the condition of the eye is related to someone's age. And this is also reflected in our consumer study, as it shows that 70% of the U.S. respondents are concerned or very concerned about eye health when it comes to aging. Actually, most interesting, Brian, and what really answers your question is that when we look at the same question, but then break it down by age groups, it shows us that eye health is a concern that affects all age groups. For example, here in the chart, we see that 72% of the 18 to 25-year-olds in the U.S. say that they are concerned about the condition of their eyes regarding aging. So now that we know eye health is a concern on the consumer's minds, let's really see how the food and beverage industry market responds to this. We at Innova Market Insights are a leading market research company with a really big database. We're constantly updating new products tracked around the world. And we really see that overall in the global market, in the food and beverage industry, we see here on the top right corner that more products are launched with eye health claims. And we see that the light blue line in the chart says actually that eye health claims are relatively niche in the food and beverage industry. Around 0.35% of all food and beverage launches in the world have an eye health claim, so that's really small. The chart below shows us the same data for the US market, and it's relatively the same. When we then look at the right hand of the slide, we see that for both the global market as well as the US, the dominating market category with eye health positionings is the baby and toddler category. In 2017, 62% of the global new food and beverage launches tracked with an eye health claim were baby and toddler products. And these are mainly fortified infant formulas and milk drinks. And we see an example from our database below. It's recently launched in Singapore. It's a growing up formula, and it actually claims features IQ+. Lutein is an integral part of the eye retina. DHA and AA are building blocks of brain and eye development. So it shows that in the food and beverage industry there are eye health claims, but it is a niche. So then if we look besides the baby and toddler category that's a dominating category here, we also see that fruit and vegetables contain natural sources of vitamins and minerals and can be beneficial of the eye. That's also what Lynda already explained. We see that vitamin A, for example, is key ingredient supporting the eye. And we see products in our database, so on the market, showing examples for this. On the left, we see, for example, a lactose-free milk product claiming to be a good source of vitamin A, which keeps your eyes keen and cells growing. And below that, we've highlighted this juice drink. And the beverage actually description tells us the vitamin A-rich carrot and mango power combo is the perfect juice for your eyes, body and soul. And then it further explains and states the carrot and mango in transformation are a high potency source of vitamin A, which is important for growth and development, the immune system and good vision. So these are examples in which eye health is really coming through in the food and beverage market. And when we look at opportunity markets for the natural source of vitamin A, we see here a baby juice pouches, but we also see salad kits. On the right bottom of the slide, we see Doyle launching a restaurant quality salad that you can prepare in minutes. And it describes that it has nutritious baby lettuce topped with dried cranberries, etc. And besides a very extensive product description, it also claims excellent source of vitamin A, which helps support healthy vision. So there are products in the market that really promote eye health. So when we leave the food and beverage industry behind us for now, and let's focus on supplement products. Here on the left hand of the slide, we see a chart that shows that nearly 7% of all new supplement launches tracked feature an eye health claim. And this penetration number is relatively stable over the past 5 years. We see a little bit of growth in 2016, but overall 7% of the supplements have an eye health claim. And when we actually deep dive into the type of health claims used in supplements, the claims are actually not very specific. We've seen in our database that 88% of all eye health claims are basic claims, so to say. This means they are non-specific, such as support and maintenance of eye health, for healthy eyes, for normal vision, promote good vision. So relatively non-specific claims. And we see that in this product example below as well. It says DHA supports brain, eye, heart, and joint health, so also a combination of claims. Talking about combination of claims, in this chart we see how often eye health claims are accompanied by other health claims. It shows us that eye health claims are rarely used as a standalone claim, so it's often accompanied by other health claims. If we look at the first column in this chart, we see that in 2017, 51% of all supplements with eye health claims also have a brain and mood health claim. And what I really find interesting about this chart is that it shows that all secondary health claims, so all the columns, are growing as percentage of the total supplement launches tracked with eye health claims. So there's more often a combination of claims spotted in the market. So here in this slide we see a couple of examples in the supplement market featuring multiple claims or positionings. This first example on the left is a supplement product for children, and it claims that it has 11 essential nutrients, including vitamins A, B, C, D, E, and a combination of health claims: immune, eye, bone, antioxidant, and energy. So multiple benefits from taking only one supplement. Then the second product example in the middle promotes brain and vision. This is clearly visible when you just look at the front of the packaging. The product describes itself as a powerful blend of cognitive and eye nutrition, delivering an effective 2-in-1 brain and vision formula. So it's really a combination again. And it also claims more about its ingredients. It says with specialized eye nutrition, lutein and zeaxanthin for healthy eye support. Here on the right is another example featuring only one ingredient, which has multiple benefits. The product contains omega-3. It's a vegetarian omega-3 supplement, and it contains both DHA and EPA. And it supports the heart, brain, eye, and actually overall health, it claims. So yeah, we've already talked about lutein a couple of times in this webinar, and it has multiple functions and therefore a key ingredient in eye health care products, supporting multiple platforms, and that's what we really see in the market. We again see 3 examples here showing different platforms lutein is used in. And another analysis we did in the database gave us a very interesting insight. We saw that 26% of the eye health supplements launched globally in 2017 contain lutein, but 62% of the supplements in the US contain lutein. So only 26% of the eye health supplements globally and 62% of the eye health supplements in the US contain gluten. So meaning that lutein more often is found in US supplements supporting eye care. So here in this slide we see that it really protects against light. In the middle we see blue light protection The product even says it's called Lutein. And on the right, we see also that it's good for tired eyes. So it's again what Lynda explained, but what we actually see in the market as well. So when we look specifically at the U.S. market, we see there's a strong growth of eye health claims observed in since 2016. This is the green line shown in the graph. It shows that in 2017, 8% of the supplement launches tracked in the U.S. feature an eye health claim. And on the right, we see another two examples that clearly communicate that they promote eye health and vision. They feature blends of ingredients that all benefit the eyes.
That was a pretty comprehensive overview, and I think it's interesting from your data how you're showing that not only is eye health kind of a dietary supplement thing, but it's also kind of translating into other products right down to the food level.
Yes, definitely.
And I think I'd be interested to find out more, and probably we can't cover it in this webinar, in terms of, we see it too on our side with the generic claims that a lot of people are making eye health claims. And I think, from our perspective, we're seeing a little bit more of a specialized approach to some customers as they move forward with dietary supplements, at least, in terms of being a little bit more specific on how lutein helps the eyes. And I think this brings me to my question that I wanted to ask you. And as Lynda discussed previously, blue light and its impact on eye health is over a lifetime. And we see that message translating into dietary supplements, as you just shown with the Lutein product, in the dietary space. But where do you see this message, this blue light messaging currently, and where will it continue to evolve?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, because if we really look at the database, we see that actually 1 in 3 U.S. supplements with eye health claims are targeting this blue light protection. And we've selected a couple of examples also in this slide, showing really the innovation in products targeting this specific protection. We see, for example, on the left, the blue guard saying have lutein and zeaxanthin in isomers in a unique combination which supports our eyes by filtering high energy blue light, reducing glare sensitivity. But we also see another product in the middle really showing us that it helps or it protects against the blue light. And I think which is very interesting is the product on the right. It's really targeting teens because, we've seen in Lynda's presentation as well that teens and children are looking at screens so many hours a day. And it's interesting that the market is actually responding on that, launching products that are really targeting specific target groups, such as teens. And I think it's funny that this product on the right also has a different flavor. It has tropical punch flavor, so that's also very appealing for this target group. So yes, let's wrap up and what's really next in the eye health market? So in the development side, we expect that new product launch developments of products targeting eye health remains relatively stable and niche in the food and beverage industry. And baby and toddlers as well as fortified products will remain the core of these developments. However, there is potential to diversify with introductions of products which feature inherent sources of vitamin A's, zinc, and omegas, such as fruits and vegetables that we've seen in one of the slides I've shown. And overall, supplement launches targeting this eye health remains relatively stable globally, but are growing in the U.S., so there's an opportunity. More launches are expected due to the continuous presence of screens in consumers' everyday life and a high overall concern of the consumers, which we saw in our consumer research. When we then look at the ingredients, lutein and zeaxanthin are a given, and communicating the source of the functional ingredient gives it a more natural image, which can be appealing to the consumer. Manufacturers are already specifying the source, and the next step will be to innovate with other functional ingredients to really offer the best ingredient blend. We've also seen products that already blend a lot of ingredients and target different health claims, but this will be one of the next things we can expect. Other functional ingredients could be vitamins and essential fatty acids, for example. When focusing on claims, we have seen that the majority of the segment is shared between multi-blends, which focus on a variety of claims, as well as general eye health claims. Basic eye health claims, so the non-specific one I've talked about earlier, represent nearly 90% of the global supplement launches. However, opportunities for more specific claims, as seen in the US, where the blue light is really growing, that's really an opportunity in the market. Thank you for your attention. This was my part of the story.
So, Lynda and Irene, thanks so much for this overview from a science perspective and from a market perspective. And I think it's clear on some level that, lutein and the macular carotenoids are, they're an important component of our diet. They play a significant role. And I think, as Irene kind of talked about, is that there are some compelling new market opportunities to really exploit, whether it's as a standalone ingredient or around specific claims. I think we have some time for a couple of questions here. We have one here from Mitch. And I think, Lynda, this one's for you. It is based on what I heard, lutein is essential, almost like a vitamin. How do you suggest we help the consumer incorporate it into their daily lifestyle?
It's actually a very good question, and I think there's a multifaceted answer here. First, I think let's remember that we're not consuming enough fruits and vegetables in our diets to get the macular carotenoids that we need based on what's in the research. So there's an educational component that we have to look at, where we need to educate consumers, whether it's through social media or other means. But to do that, we also need to develop the science behind the products and support those claims, so substantiate the claims that can be supportive and educational to the consumer. So that's where companies like OmniActive would come in to build that science and build those claims. So if we take a look, again, as I mentioned, science does support higher doses. It's difficult to get the macular carotenoids from the diet. So it's also important to note that we need to do this from early on. So again, this is a cumulative effect that we've seen from building that macular pigment to help support better visual function, to help protect the eyes later in life. And I think basically we should work on building the macular carotenoids or incorporating macular carotenoids into the supplements that are being developed and educating the consumers to meet those needs, and also looking at functional foods and beverages.
That's great. I mean, when it comes to dietary supplements, I'm a pill popper, so I know that it's not hard for me to get that in there. But again, the dosages you're talking about are relatively small, right? 10 to 20 milligrams of lutein, and I mean, it's something that you could essentially take as a standalone product or even incorporate into like a multivitamin type formula.
Absolutely, it's very simple. For those lower doses, they really work well when it comes to various supplement formats, whether it's pills, gummies, you could do beverage powders, even looking at different food applications, whether it's bars. Again, very easy to incorporate into various products that the consumers would be looking at in their daily lifestyle, so they don't have to make a lot of changes themselves.
Great. We got another one here from Sarah. I'm going to kick this over to Irene. You mentioned eye health is a growing focus for the consumer. Are consumers waiting to take eye health supplements when they're older? And I think you kind of touched on this too, Irene, in terms of your slides, but if you can maybe expand a little bit more on it, that would be great.
Yes, definitely. Well, the consumer insight doesn't show if they are waiting, but it does show that consumers in early ages are already concerned about their eye health. And I think it's interesting that when we look at the market, for example, the blue light products, that 1 in 3 supplements in the U.S. already target this blue light. It shows that the awareness will grow because the products will be more visual on the shelves, which means that consumers also start to think about these type of concerns and solutions more and more these days.
You wanted to add something there, too.
I actually do. I'm thinking also out one last thing, that just to confirm what Irene was saying in terms of seeing the supplements starting to be directed towards teens and other younger individuals. It's so important to note because, as we mentioned earlier, this is a lifelong process, and it is a cumulative effect when we're building up the macular pigment so that we can help our visual function throughout life. So it's so important to continue this process or start this process early and continue it throughout our lifetime. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's all we got time for. I'd like to thank Lynda from OmniActive Health Technologies and Irene from Innova for giving us some great insight into this market. Thank you.